Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Before the feast of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to pass from this world to the Father. He loved his own in the world, and he loved them to the end. The devil had already induced Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot, to hand him over. So during supper, fully aware that the Father had put everything into his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God, he rose from supper and took off his outer garments. He took a towel and tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and dry them with the towel around his waist. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Master, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered and said to him, "What I am doing, you do not understand now, but you will understand later." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "Unless I wash you, you will have no inheritance with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Master, then not only my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus said to him, "Whoever has bathed has no need except to have his feet washed, for he is clean all over. So you are clean, but not all." For he knew who would betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." So when he had washed their feet and put his garments back on and reclined at table again, he said to them, "Do you realize what I have done for you? You call me teacher and master, and rightly so, for indeed I am. If I, therefore, the master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. "40 days ago, ashes on our foreheads reminded us that repenting and believing in the gospel go together. During these Lenten days, we've examined our lives, our church, and our world while fasting, praying, and giving alms, while sharing our resources. Lent, for some of us, has been a battle. Some of us have let it slip by with only good intentions. But Lent has been eye-opening for others. For them, things won't be the same again. Tonight we begin the Passover of the Lord, the sacred Triduum, the 3 days of Easter. And from now until Easter Sunday afternoon, we celebrate the high point of our year as Catholic Christians. But this is Holy Thursday night, the last night before the death of Jesus of Nazareth. For all of us, there will finally come not just a last time, but a whole calendar of last times. The last time we see our spouse, our children, a dear friend, or a parent. The last time we see a sunrise, take a walk in the mountains, or watch the rain fall. The last time we speak words of love, write a letter, build a fire, or hear our name spoken. It's part of the mercy of things that we rarely know when each last time comes. For we're never sure when we are saying goodbye for good. Even when someone is old and dying in bed, there is the belief that one will feel the touch of a human hand again before it's all over, that we'll hear the opening of the curtains and smell breakfast once more before the end. For some, it is given to know. The death row inmate watching the sun come up on the morning of his execution, or the woman planning suicide, writing her note. But even for them, there must always be the wild hope that somehow a miracle will save them. But for Jesus, on this last night, there could be no hope for anything from the world to save him from dying. Because he believed that he had to die to save the world. Jesus believed that God was the power that filled and sustained him. But it was God who had made him powerless. The miracle was to be that there would be no miracle. And so when it came time for him to eat his last meal with his friends, he knew it was the last. He was to be spared nothing, but he was to give everything. The Gospels tend to disarm us again and again with their relentless honesty. This is certainly true in the accounts of the final meal, this Last Supper that Jesus shared with his friends. It would have been only human to picture it as an unusually successful affair, with the disciples rising to the occasion as never before, with Jesus presiding over them as the perfect host, serene, radiant, and at peace at last. But that's not the way the gospel is presented at all. True to form, as Luke's gospel reminds us, the disciples start bickering about which of them is to be regarded as the greatest. In that very room, where they had every reason to know that something tragic was about to happen to Jesus, whom they had sworn they loved, in that very room, it is their fate that they are worried about as they start jockeying for position. And Jesus says, "Let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves." And you can almost hear the weariness in his voice as he says it. Because Jesus is perhaps wondering if it is possible that they have missed the whole point of everything. After all that he tried to show them with his words and with his life. At one point, as John tells us, Jesus gets up from the table to perform a simple act of self-giving, which he hopes will summarize all that he's about. Jesus ties a towel around himself, pours water into a basin, and begins to wash his disciples' feet. Unless I wash you, Jesus says, you will have no inheritance with me. I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should do also. It's a simple act of loving service. And Jesus shows forever and for everyone a way of living that even death is powerless to contain. At the outset of our 3 days, we who would walk in Jesus' way are to go down on our knees and do this humble, loving service for one another. We know that this kind of service turns expectations upside down and sets the world on edge. For the one who first washed feet got his feet nailed to a cross. The Roman Empire of Jesus' day could understand corruption and power plays and work of violence, but it could not abide, however, a foot-washing ex-carpenter who listened to the prophets of his own people and who called the poor blessed. They could not abide that. And most empires and superpowers, including our own, have behaved no better ever since. The whole of these 3 days, the whole of our lives perhaps, is here in a basin, water, and a towel. It is now that we go down on our knees to wash and to be washed. It summarizes in action the words of Jesus, I have come not to be served, but to serve. Some foot-washing people pass through life unnoticed, though they leave the world lovelier and more beautiful. Others get noticed, and they pay dearly for it. But all for whom service is central to life have learned why the church long ago chose Jesus' words for this Holy Thursday night, when he said, if I, therefore, the master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do.